From courtside of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. Andrew with once again, joined as always by my co-host Derek, aka D for 3. Derek, the NBA 2K27 preview season is upon us, still much to be revealed, though as always, pre-orders have opened with a very small glimpse of what to expect. We've got some thoughts on what we've seen so far, so please, tip us off.
Yeah, on today's show, we will be discussing NBA 2K27 news. Cover athletes, art, and game prices were announced, and early screenshots were revealed. You'll also hear the community's take on it all. So, Andrew, let's start with the cover athlete choices. This is the first year where there were global editions for each release. Instead of standard WNBA, Legends, and Let 'Em Know editions like last year, this year it's standard, deluxe, and Ultra editions. For the standard edition, we have Victor Wembanyama. The deluxe edition has Caitlin Clark, and the Ultra edition has Derrick Rose. Pretty uninspiring cover art. I think there's been a lot of people out there that have stated it looks amateur. We certainly saw those comments on the NLSC Discord. Covers aren't what they used to be. I feel like we've seen much more creativity in the past, better looking cover art. But yeah, those are the athlete choices, and I think they make sense overall. Obviously, Wemby made it to the NBA Finals, still a young player, one of the faces of the league, putting up numbers, very recognizable face and name. Caitlin Clark, obviously the most popular player in the WNBA, putting up numbers, breaking records almost every single night. And I think that cover makes sense. And then you have Derrick Rose. And I was talking to you a little bit about this off air. I think they really milked Derrick Rose's MVP season and what he was able to do in the first few years he was in the NBA. Obviously, he was hit with injuries. It derailed his career and all the success he could have had later on. But I don't know about him being like a Legends Edition cover. I guess it makes more sense for him to be like an Ultra Edition cover. So maybe that's why they brought him in for that this year. But Derrick Rose as a choice. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I don't really care either way.
Yeah, I'm probably more positive about the Derrick Rose cover than you are, being a Derrick Rose fan like I am. That being said, I totally agree that it is a bit of a weird choice. He was a former NBA 2K cover athlete, NBA 2K13, one of three back then, along with Durant and Blake Griffin, of course. In fact, he missed the whole season that he was on the NBA 2K13 cover. Bit of a curse there. Well, of course, he was injured in the playoffs. Not totally surprising that he missed that season, but still a bit of a cover curse for people who want to talk about that stuff. Yeah, a bit of a weird choice. Perhaps not your prototypical legend for that Ultra Edition, that Legends Edition. To your point, probably why they called it the Ultra Edition rather than the Legends Edition, but nevertheless, a former 2K cover player and a retired player to be that quote-unquote Legends version. You say that Caitlin Clark is on the Deluxe Edition cover. I maintain that's not Caitlin Clark. Well, it's supposed to be, but I don't know what's going on with her face, whether they've used some AI sharpening
almost looks
or something.
Like AI. Yeah, I got to tell you something. So if you zoom in on that face for Clark, it doesn't really look like her at all. It looks like maybe AI usage there. I can't confirm. But a lot of people were commenting on that. She also looks more tan. Her skin tone doesn't look right on that cover. Her eyes don't even look like Caitlin Clark's real eyes. So, yeah, not a fan of that. It doesn't look like there's a lot of effort put in there to make it look like Caitlin Clark and represent Caitlin Clark. So, some laziness, in my opinion.
Agreed. Something definitely amiss there with the Clark cover. And again, that's your expensive edition, or your mid-tier expensive edition, I suppose. And I agree that the cover art itself is not very inspired. We've seen much more appealing cover art in years gone by. From NBA 2K22 through to 2K23, 2K24, we did see some pretty cool covers, some good artwork. They seem to enlist the services of some artists who were very talented, very creative ideas. The last few years have not been very inspiring. A lot of talk about the AI usage last year with multiple Al Horfords defending SGA. Again, what's going on with this Caitlin Clark cover? And even that aside, they're fine, I guess. It is just a cover at the end of the day, but uninspired is what I'd say, for sure.
So there was also another controversy related to the cover art, and this one had to do with Victor Wembanyama's cover for the standard edition. So back on April 2nd, Twitter user Benjay, so Benjay at Benjay Creates, posted a hashtag NBA 2K27 cover concept. And it says NBA 2K27, and it's basically the exact cover that 2K officially released for Wemby. And obviously the colors are a little bit different, but it's the, two Spurs teammates grabbing a hold of Wemby's jersey and Wemby making that tough face and whatnot. And his cover concept post now, because people recognized that it was basically the same as what 2K put out, has 11.4 million views, Andrew, and countless shares and comments. It has 15K likes, people saying, how did you know? And you should give this guy credit. And even he spoke up and stated, hey, are you guys going to give me credit for this concept? And, it brings me back to a game that I was trying to help out with years back. There was a game for the PC that was released called AO International Tennis. And in the game, there wasn't much authenticity to it. So I reached out to the developers of the game. And I stated, hey, if you guys added a preferred surface for players who excel on specific surfaces, it would add some authenticity to the game. And they did it. They added that idea. Players like Rafael Nadal, his preferred surface, his best surface by far was clay. So it allowed those players to have an advantage on that surface, play better on that surface. Did I get a dime for that, Andrew? Did I get any credit for that? Absolutely not. So a lot of the things that you see in video games, people in the community come up with these ideas and then they're implemented into these official releases. And the people who came up with those ideas not only don't get credit for it, but they don't make a dime on it. And that's kind of what it made me think of, right? Because it's pretty clear that 2K, and this is my opinion, I can't guarantee it because obviously this is like an image on Getty Images. This is a real image that they use that anybody could use, which is how he ended up coming up with that cover concept. But to me, it's obvious that they took that inspiration, including the way it looks related to the 2K27 word art and everything at the top. It looks like they took that inspiration from this guy's post, and he'll never get credit for that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. And people have been pointing out, as you just did, yes, it's a real photo that you can get from Getty Images. It's not like he drew something. He didn't create the artwork. It is a photo. But it's still the idea. It still doesn't feel right that he's put that out there and someone from 2K has surely seen it. The fact that it is that image, it's too much to call it a coincidence. Someone from 2K has seen that. They've thought, oh, that's a good idea, which it obviously was, and that's what they've run with. They've obviously made some changes, added some effects to it, blurred out the other Spurs players, but it is the same image, obviously. It's the same concept. So I guess it's one of those things where he doesn't really have any kind of legal recourse. He didn't take the photo, he didn't create the artwork. We understand that. But it still feels just a little bit shady, doesn't it?
It really does. I will say, too, that I think that the original cover art concept that Benjay created actually looks better than what 2K officially put out. So let's get to the next piece of this, which is the early screenshots that 2K released. And I made a comment about this on the Discord. Basically, don't expect the graphics in this game to look much different at all than what we had on NBA 2K26. And you can kind of see that in these screenshots. They show an early shot of Victor Wembanyama, a screenshot of Caitlin Clark, which she finally got a face scan. That's an upgrade, right? Yeah, you can actually see the details on her face now. For the last couple of years, the last couple of releases of NBA 2K, she didn't have the face scan, and it was pretty easy to tell. So that is an upgrade for Caitlin Clark. But as far as her body, like the skin textures, all of that stuff, that all looks just like 2K26. Derrick Rose, my brother and I were joking about this, the screenshot that they released. That's not a very good Derrick Rose. It doesn't really look much like Derrick Rose. Actually, if you go back a decade or more ago, the Derrick Rose cyber faces, in my opinion, look more like him. They look more lifelike. So, yeah, not really seeing much authenticity there. And then they released also a Cooper flag, and somebody put it side by side with the 2K26 screenshot. And, looks a little bit more like him in 2K26, in my opinion. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm not expecting many improvements from a graphical perspective. They've been going with pretty much the same look overall as far as the player body models, the skin textures, all of that stuff. Pretty much the same for the entire PS5 gen, Andrew. So from 2K21 all the way up until now. So yeah, from a graphics perspective, I'm expecting mostly the same thing.
Me too. Yeah, I'm not surprised by what we've seen with the first look screenshots. It does feel like we've plateaued this generation, graphically speaking. And that's not the worst case scenario, I suppose, because the graphics have come a long way. You know, compare this to PS2, PS3, obviously it leaves them in the dust, the best of the 8th and 9th generations. To your point, some faces don't look as good as they did in previous generations, player-by-player, case-by-case basis, but generally speaking, the visuals obviously have come a long way over the past couple of generations, but they have plateaued. So the screenshots never really excite me these days. The game looks fine. I'm not the harshest critic when it comes to graphics. As I've said before, I have no problem with these graphics. Not saying they couldn't be better, especially individual faces and whatnot, but I'm fine with the graphics. As we've said before, gameplay is paramount. All of my concerns are about how the game plays, and some things with modes, of course, as well. But yeah, I look at these screenshots and fine, yeah, cool. They look good enough. I'm not upset by them, but at the same time, not excited either.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the word plateaued in this case, because we've seen better graphics in different areas on 2K releases from PS4 gen. Right. I think that in some ways we've taken steps back. Like my brother and I have been playing a ton of 2K15 lately, and the players look more like athletes, have more muscle. The body models look more realistic.
True.
Back then. Right. And that game came out over a decade ago. So I think that if anything, they've just decided this is, what it's going to be on this generation, and they're going to put their focus more on other areas. I don't think the game looks bad. I think it can look excellent at times, and there are definitely positives about the graphical approach that they've taken on this gen. But like you stated, the biggest thing is the gameplay, right? How good does it feel on the sticks? Is it reactive? Is there good foot planning? How does the shooting feel? Does the basketball make sense on the floor between the lines? So I think that gameplay is always going to be far more important, but I don't know if it's that we've plateaued. I just think that they've decided this is the direction they're going to go with and stick with for the PS5 Gen 2Ks. And that's why all the games mostly, as far as like the way the players look and whatnot, every edition just kind of runs into each other.
Oh, for sure. I suppose when I say plateaued, I mean relative to this generation. It's kind of regressed, to your point. It hasn't necessarily peaked on this generation. In fact, I wouldn't say it's peaked, but it has kind of gotten to this point and just hit a plateau where it's not going up, not really going down either. It's just staying the course, to your point. Not really improving. But as far as the peak, yeah, you could definitely make an argument that we saw a higher peak on PS4, Xbox One.
So let's get into the prices for the 3 editions that were announced and what those editions offer you. Okay, so we have Standard Edition, Wemby cover, Deluxe Edition, Clark cover, Ultra Edition, Rose cover. And the Standard Edition is $69.99, and I'm going over U.S. prices here. Deluxe Edition is $99.99, and the Ultra Edition is $149.99. Andrew, Ultra Edition does not come with League Pass. They did away with that last year. Again, it's not there for you this year. It's also important to note that the Deluxe Edition and Ultra Edition allow you to play the game a week early. So instead of getting your hands on the game on September 4th, you're able to play it on August 28th. Because I'm a content creator, because I want to share footage and whatnot, I ended up getting the deluxe edition, which is the $100 edition. So I'll be able to play the game early, show off some footage, allow people to see the game and some good gameplay and whatnot. And that is important to me. Plus, we are going to end up playing this game a lot, more than likely in my house. We always play a WNBA season now where we do a fantasy draft. My brother Nick and I are going to be playing Legends versus the CPU. So we're going to put the hours in where the investment is worth it. One thing I want to throw out there, though, before I throw it over to you, how ridiculous are some of the perks, quote unquote, that come with the deluxe and ultra editions? Some of these rewards that you get for spending an absurd amount of money for these games, you don't get them until months and months after the game releases. Listen to this. So with the Ultra Edition, $150 game, by the way, you get a guaranteed 98 overall My Team player available in December of 2026. So you have to wait multiple months in order to get that reward. A guaranteed Invincible My Team player available May 2027, Andrew. That's like 8 months after the game originally releases. So you have to wait that long in order to get that reward. Listen to this. You get the Season 7 through 9 Pro Passes. The Summer Pass. That's part of this. Next summer, the summer of 2027. So you have to wait to get that reward. And those players and whatnot, you have to wait until next summer.
The off-season, yeah.
Yeah. That is absolutely insane for a $150 version of the game. And then there's some other stuff in here, which I believe you also would have to wait for. It says full 2027 Series 1 team selection, 5 times 2027 Series 1 packs, etc. So you pay $150 for a game, and for much of the content that you get, you have to wait months and months and months and months to get it. I just think that's absolutely ludicrous, and I think you would agree.
Yeah, it's very similar to the controversy with WWE 2K26 and their season passes, the battle passes, the way they handled that in that game. And there was a huge pushback on that, and they actually changed course. The 2K community, and we discussed this in the Discord, by and large, because this has been normalized, as you pointed out, it's something that NBA 2K gamers don't push back on. All of this has become normalized. We just accept it, that this is the way it is. That, yes, this is not fair, but we don't have another game anyway, so what are you going to do? And of course, if people are enjoying the game, then it kind of smooths over controversies like this. You just go, no money spent, you don't bother with the premium editions, etc. But it's still something that we should have banded together a long time ago and pushed back on this, because they've just pushed their luck more and more. You know, when they charged for haircuts in NBA 2K18 My Career, the first year of the neighborhood, some people, of course, defended it, because there's always the outliers who will loudly defend this stuff for no good reason. But there was a lot of pushback, and they listened. Did they make them free? Not until NBA 2K19, when they certainly could have. They did reduce all the prices to 100 VC, which was better than what it was, but there was pushback. But since then, they've just regrouped, pushed their luck each and every year, and this is where we're at. And I definitely don't like it. And I'm sure that some might argue that it's backloading some of the bonuses so that you're getting something throughout the year. Fine, but there's still not enough up front. And looking down this list of pre-order bonuses, it doesn't feel like, overall, they're as exciting or useful as they used to be. And of course, the amount of VC that you get doesn't go as far as it did all those years ago either. And this, of course, is where somebody says, inflation, bro, in a fictional economy, in a video game. Get that nonsense out of here. But people will say it. But yeah, the pre-order bonuses, the value isn't there. Losing League Pass was a bummer as well. And the other thing about this, Derek, is that the Deluxe Edition and the Ultra Edition are both digital only. And going back to the cover plays for a second, you know, as a fan of Derrick Rose, I might have considered getting the special edition to have that collectible cover, as I did for NBA 2K16 with the Michael Jordan cover, as I did for NBA 2K23, the Michael Jordan edition. But it's digital only. The only Derrick Rose cover is going to be digital. It's just going to be the icon on PlayStation 5 for me, and in Steam, obviously. So what's the point? There's no cover to collect, so there's no incentive there. Of course, as a content creator, I am thinking about the early access. If I don't get early access, I'm sure I'll connect with you and we'll have a quick session of it so that I can at least give some thoughts on it. Still considering it, but I'm definitely not moved to go for the premium edition, which is going to be over 200 Australian, when I'm not even going to get that collectible cover.
These releases don't feel as special as they used to, do they?
Nope.
Yeah, not even close. I want to point something out, too. So even if you buy the $150 version of this game, if you're somebody who does play my team or you play my career, those would be the reasons, right, why you would buy that expensive edition, so you can use that VC and you can get those perks. I can already tell, looking at these rewards, that you're still going to want to spend more money or feel the need to spend more money in those modes. And I think that's what they're banking on.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No question.
You know, they're going to give you enough to kind of get you into those modes or get you started in those modes, but then you're still going to need to open packs, right? You're still going to feel the need to potentially put more money into the game and whatnot. And I find that unfortunate. And what I noticed is there's been a couple content creators who have a decent following who are trying to get something started as it relates to microtransactions in the NBA 2K series. They tried to drum up some pushback, kind of like what happened with the college football 27 situation, and it worked, right? Like, they pushed back on those microtransactions, and much of them were removed from that game. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is not enough of the big creators, not enough of the people that, you know, create content for 2K, not enough of the people that have huge follower and subscriber accounts on YouTube and Twitter, and whatnot, you know, the people that are invited to community day, all of that stuff. You haven't heard a peep from them. At least that's not from what I've seen. So what ended up happening is these other content creators who tried to start something, it fell flat, right? And that's why a lot of this stuff is just going to keep going, because there's never going to be enough of a revolt, or at least it seems that way. There's not going to be enough of a pushback to get them to change their ways, right? And that is super unfortunate. Big props to the content creators who are trying to attack this issue to try to get more people to speak up. But yeah, as I stated to you on the Discord, I think that most people hate this stuff. They don't like it. There's nobody out there that likes this stuff, Andrew. But at the end of the day, most people aren't going to speak up. They don't think it's worth their time. They think it's a waste of time, and they think that the machine is too big for them to attack and make a difference. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see any change anytime soon.
No, the community does feel very defeated, unfortunately. And because it has gone this far, without people of influence pushing back. And I understand that these days, you've got to play the game. And I've been thinking about doing a video essay about this, either an article or a video essay, because it has changed a lot. 20 years this year, I went to my first community event for NBA Live. And certainly it was a marketing thing back then as well. But back then, it was pre-social media, so communities like ours, companies like EA, like 2K, they wanted to get involved with those communities and tap into those communities for feedback and promotion. Obviously, these days with social media, they've got a big enough presence themselves that they really want to pick and choose who they work with, who has the biggest following, who's going to toe the line. And if you don't toe the line, you know, you get blackballed, you're out. And you can take a stand, and that's very admirable. I'm always glad to see content creators doing it. But the unfortunate reality of the situation is that they will get blackballed, and somebody else who's willing to toe the line, willing to do the promotional work, willing to shill sometimes, will just take their place. And without the big content creators leading any kind of pushback or boycott or anything like that, speaking out against it, I agree. It's very hard for those movements to get traction. And again, with those smaller creators, like you said, you know, all the credit to them for pushing back, trying to push back, standing up for consumers, standing up for their fellow gamers. But they'll just get pushed aside. And the next content creator who's working to get that relationship with 2K, 2K is going to turn to them and say, well, it's your turn now, as long as you play the game. And a lot of people will, because content creation has become a career. So having a relationship with developers, publishers, studios is beneficial for a YouTube channel. You get the traffic, you get the exclusives, you get the perks, you get the access. So yeah, I certainly understand why a lot of creators don't rock the boat, but at the same time, it's a damn shame.
Point out real quick, too, before we move on, NBA 2K27 Dispatch, news and info at 2K Dispatch released. Here's the pre-order bonuses for each NBA 2K27 edition, and it shows, all of the perks, you could say, of getting like the deluxe edition, ultra edition, and what comes with the standard edition. And if you take a look at the comments under this post, there's 246,000 views, by the way, 89 comments, close to 2,000 likes. But if you look at the comments under this, people are upset. There's hardly anybody making a positive comment about what comes with these editions, how much they have to pay, all of that stuff. The fact, a few people in there also brought up the fact, like you stated, that the deluxe and ultra editions are digital only. So they wanted a physical version of those covers, and they're not able to get them, and they think that's absolutely ridiculous as well. People talking about how League Pass doesn't even come with the $150 version anymore, etc. So it's not that people are defending these practices, right? It's not like the average person is saying, yeah, you know what, the game is worth this much money, and hey, I like the perks that we're getting, and you know what, microtransactions aren't ruining the game for me, or I'm okay with microtransactions. People aren't doing that. Like, if you take a look at any of these comment sections, it's mostly people pissed off, right? Thinking it's unfair and all of that stuff. So I just want our listeners to keep that in mind. So before we get to the community's responses to this week's community question, Andrew is going to do a quick comparison to what came with 2K17 for rewards in comparison to what we're getting in 2K27.
Yeah, and the big thing with NBA 2K17 is that the standard edition, if you pre-order that, you would also get the early tip-off weekend. And that's one of the biggest changes over the past decade, I think, with the pre-order bonuses, is that the standard edition has gotten less and less. If you want any kind of goodies, you have to go for the premium version. There's very little reward for pre-ordering the standard edition. 10,000 VC is what you get this year, and that's what you got for 2K16 as well. 2K17 standard edition was 5,000 virtual currency, so at least it's double of what it was 10 years ago, although 10 years ago that was half of what we had a year before that. So the virtual currency that we get has fluctuated between 5 and 10,000 over the past 10 years, and it doesn't go anywhere near as far as it did 10 years ago either. With the standard edition of 2K17, there was a My Team bundle that included 3 packs with a guaranteed Paul George free agent card. Paul George, of course, the cover player of 2K17. And there were some other digital items as well. The Kobe Bryant Legend Edition had a limited edition Kobe poster, Black Mamba controller skin, so it actually had physical collectibles and an actual physical release with that special edition cover back then. These days, once again, digital only, not going to get those physical extras, posters, controller skins, etc. 30,000 VC, bigger My Team bundle, Kobe shoes and gear for your My Player, etc. The Legend Edition Gold, 70,000 additional VC for 100,000 in total, 2 additional My Team packs, physical items again, the limited edition Kobe poster, the controller skins, 2 Panini Kobe trading cards. Yeah, pretty decent, and of course the games themselves, not as much of a grind in My Team and My Career alike. Jumping to NBA 2K27, again, 10,000 VC for the standard edition, nothing else. They do have a limited time bonus pack, which gives you 15,000 VC, a race car helmet, and a GOAT Stephen Curry My Team card in NBA 2K26 in the meantime, and a hyperdrive suit and a 90 overall Victor Wembanyama My Team card in NBA 2K27 when it comes out. That's if you pre-order by August 17th, but of course that's the Deluxe and Ultra Edition only. The Deluxe Edition does come with 100,000 VC, up to 7 days of early access. The Ultra Edition, again, you get the 7 days of early access, 135,000 VC, significantly more, but again, it doesn't go as far as it used to. You got the 2-hour double XP coins for My Team and My Career. You've got boosts for My Career. Pretty much the same stuff we've had in recent years. Again, none of it really exciting. The physical collectibles completely gone because the premium editions are digital only. As you said, those more expensive editions definitely geared towards My Team and My Career players because of those boosts. A little bit of a leg up, not much, but a little. And of course, if you want that early access, Great for content creators as well as anybody who wants to get that early start on the grind, I suppose. But yeah, just not as exciting as it used to be. Not as good value as it used to be.
And a lot of people are pointing that out, right? That the games used to be more fair, and a lot of people reminiscing about, how they felt when they picked up games like 2K17, 16, 13, et cetera, even going further back, NBA 2K11, and, how it felt to, have those games in their hands, and, their excitement when they first put on the game, and then, how they felt the games were more fair to them. So, yeah, pretty obvious how people feel about it. But again, it's a big machine and it's hard to fight.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So let's get to this week's community's responses to this week's community question. I stated NBA 2K27 releases on September 4th, 2026 for $69.99, but you can play a week early if you buy the $99.99 or $149.99 editions. I asked the community thoughts on the cover, athlete choices, and art. Will you buy? If so, which version? And thoughts on the early screenshots. We did receive many responses. So on Twitter, T Gentry at Bucky_T states, I won't make the same mistake again and get the $100 or $150 versions, thinking of holding off until a sale before or around Black Friday, but likely I'll get the $70 version if I decide to play at release. I just want to hoop, and it's always a curiosity for the newest release. And yeah, it's a big deal still in our house to put the game on for the first time and look through the roster, see what they did for updates for Cyber Faces, see if there's any new teams added, have that first experience on the floor, see how the game looks, all of that stuff. So yeah, still a big deal in our house as big basketball and basketball gaming fans. He mentions a possible sale around Black Friday. Yeah, this game does sometimes go 20%, 30%, even upwards to 50% off, around that time or around Christmas time at the beginning of the new year and whatnot. So yeah, I honestly recommend most gamers hold off until those times if they don't mind waiting a few months.
Yeah, if you're not sure about getting the game, definitely hold off. Sure, it's nice to have the game before the season, at the start of the season, and get that early start on grinding for my team, my career. But if you're not into those modes, and certainly if you're not sure about the game itself, yeah, definitely hold off. Don't feel beholden to pre-order. They're not going to run out of copies. You're going to be able to get a hold of this game until the servers are offline, basically, if you want to have this in your collection, if you want to give it a go. So if you're not convinced, definitely hold off. And as far as the expensive editions, once again, if you're not playing my team or my career, that's where all the bonuses are. So if those modes don't interest you, none of that stuff really applies to you. The only bonus is getting it early. And again, if you're not sure about the quality, especially after the last few years, like I am, yeah, that's not a wise investment.
Also worth noting that if you buy the expensive versions of the game, the majority of the perks are tied to my team and my career, and those modes go completely away after 2 years, so you lose all of that, all of those items and all of that progress.
Yep.
So, and all of your money. So just to give you an idea. So MP3 Gaming at MP3_gaming states, I won't buy on release. There is no PS4 version going forward, so I'll see how the game is based off of our community reviews and the people I trust to give an open, honest review. And if the game is worth getting, then I'll consider upgrading to PS5. And yeah, he's one of the gamers, much like Sweet Jones OTF, that was still playing the PS4 versions of NBA 2K, so it's a loss to him that they're not releasing on those platforms anymore.
And I saw a thread over on the NBA 2K subreddit celebrating this, saying that NBA 2K has been freed from its Gen 8 shackles. And look, we've talked about next-gen elitism before. dumping on people because they don't have the latest technology for a myriad of very understandable reasons, and how much we hate that elitist attitude. But on top of that, if you think that Gen 9, current generation NBA 2K, has been held back from a quality perspective simply because it was still releasing a Gen 8 version that was being developed by a completely different development team, still under the 2K umbrella, of course, but if you believe that Gen 8 was holding back Gen 9, then I'm sorry, but you're a bit naive. What's holding back Gen 9 is the design principles, the greed, the microtransactions, all of that stuff. It wasn't a Gen 8 release, so if you're expecting NBA 2K27 to make a huge leap just because last gen's been left behind, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed.
More than likely, it wasn't even the same studio working on the different versions. Right. It was probably a completely different team. And obviously, like, the two teams had to communicate with each other. But I don't think this is going to, free up any resources for the PS5 gen version of 2K. I don't think that this is going to really make a difference in their development. And that is my opinion. NBA 2K Fadeaway at NBA 2K Fadeaway states NBA 2K is a money printing machine for 2K. One of the covers was taken from a user without informing him. That's not kind. He's obviously referencing the Wemby cover that we discussed earlier. I mean, 2K is earning a lot of money, but can't hire a graphic designer for these things. Every year, a new game is unnecessary. You can sell DLCs, not the game engine. So obviously not happy with what we think may have happened with that Wemby cover, and not happy with the money printing machine that is 2K.
Yeah, well, we've talked about the greed so many times, and it continues to be an issue, except in regions such as Belgium, where you actually can't get the Ultra or Deluxe editions because those extras are tied to the recurrent revenue mechanics and the gambling mechanics, and local jurisdiction has outlawed that. So those editions actually aren't available in Belgium and other areas that have implemented those laws, which I commend those jurisdictions for doing that. But yeah, greed continues to be a problem. And yeah, as for that cover, once again, even if it's not illegal, and again, he doesn't own the artwork, won't have copyrighted the concept or whatever, even if it's not illegal, even if they don't technically owe him anything, money, credit, whatever, it just doesn't feel right.
Even at the Live King states, cover art looks decent. They paid a graphics designer to do the bare minimum so it doesn't look like AI. I don't know. The Caitlin Clark cover to me looks like it could be AI because that doesn't look like her.
Yeah.
He continues, I'm getting the deluxe version for the 135K VC since I enjoyed the rec in 26. The screenshots are definitely a downgrade. I'm sure the PC version will look better than console. Yeah, he's thinking probably what I was thinking with the Cooper Flag screenshot, Derrick Rose and whatnot, that they don't look better than NBA 2K26. If anything, they're on par with very few changes, but with the faces looking maybe a little bit worse, especially like I stated for Flag and Rose.
Yeah, and if you did enjoy the connected experience in my career last year, hopefully it's just as good or better in NBA 2K27. And to that point, if you can afford it, if you're willing to make that investment, that more expensive edition is a good investment as far as getting your player that absolutely needed boost at the start, because 60 overall is just not good enough to jump online. Really, if they wanted to be fair, if they wanted to have the competitive scene that they claim to, Derek, they really should have the starting ratings, at least for the athletic attributes, be reasonable, be fairly high, because you're supposed to be a professional basketball player, you're supposed to be a professional athlete. So the fair way to do it would, of course, be to have those athletic attributes fairly high, some key skills for your archetype at a decent level, so you can at least compete. If you're good on the sticks, you should at least be competitive out of the gate, and then, of course, have that journey to level up. That would be a fair way to do it. Of course, that wouldn't be the most profitable way of doing things, so they're not going to, or at least I'd be very surprised if they do. So, yeah, if you are into those modes, and you are keen on getting the game, yeah, that is when the more expensive editions are a sensible investment.
Andrew at Andrew the X states, I won't buy on release. I may buy on Switch 2 on sale if the game reviews well and performance is a little better. Wemby is a safe and obvious choice for a cover. I think Derrick Rose cover had the best artwork. Not sure about Caitlin Clark. Looks a little off and like she has a fake tan.
That's what you said.
Nothing
yeah.
great on screenshots. Yeah, I don't think that looks like Clark. Zoom in on the face, you'll see that doesn't look like Clark. If any of the covers look like they may have been created or altered with AI, I would say it's the Clark one. Dion at Mr. Too Soon states, Cover arts, I don't care because I get digital and you can't see it anyway. My birthday is the 29th, so I got it for my birthday. I got the Ultra Edition. Luxor at Luxor Waffle states, maybe. I only buy them when they go on a huge sale, but as digital and online-only games are becoming the norm, I don't want to risk owning a 2K game where it needs to be online to play the game. Offline, my player is no longer possible, so imagine if they do this to other modes. Yeah, I mean, that would suck, right? Like, imagine if we couldn't play my NBA anymore or play now. They just took the entire game away from you. Let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. He continues, a good example is GTA 6's decision to go digital only and recent Call of Duty games being online only to get past the title screen. 2K shuts down online servers of their games after about 2 years, so it's possible they could take this direction for 2K sports games.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where let's not give them any ideas, right? I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. They have no competition in the space. They're raking in the money, getting the sales. So yeah, to go back to an earlier point, you do understand why so much of the community does feel defeated, does feel like it's too late to push back on this. I still think we should, but I certainly understand where people are coming from. But of course, with that being said, I definitely hope it doesn't go that far.
Sunshine's Cafe 23 states, as soon as the game hits $9.99, I will buy it. I already have 2K9 through 2K14, 2K16, and 2K18 for PlayStation 3, 2K19 through 21 for the Switch, and 2K23 through 25 and 26 for Xbox Series X. So he has a lot of older games to fall back on, which is great, right? We definitely recommend that for the average gaming population. Get into some of those classic titles and whatnot. He talks about getting the game when it's sold for around $10 on a sale. Yeah, I mean, it does get really low at certain times. I'll give an example, even for a game like Madden. I picked up Madden 26 for $6, I believe in January or February of this year. And of course, the original price of that game was $70, and then there were additional versions that you could buy to get more perks and whatnot. But yeah, $6 for Madden 26 for me, the most recent release for that football series, that was an absolute steal. So I don't blame him waiting for that sale.
And again, if you're not playing online, even if you're getting into my team and just going to play it single player, just play the modes against the CPU, where you can kind of go at your own pace, don't have to worry about everybody else's souped up lineup, just going to play the NBA side of my career, not going to get into the online team play scene. You can wait. You can get into it later and take it at your own pace. Is it still a grind? Sure. But it's not as bad if you're not going against other gamers who have been grinding from the start or paying, obviously. So, yeah, absolutely wait for those sales.
And the final response on Twitter, Mark at BlackZ2013 states, Australian $215. That's with a discount. Kind of absurd. And yeah, I think you would agree.
Absolutely, and I'm guessing that's the so-called loyalty discount for the digital release. Yeah, not much of a discount at all, and you're getting that value for money. At least when they were throwing in League Pass, that was something to consider. I think Kenny got it a couple of years ago, because if nothing else, you got the League Pass plus the game. So it was a pretty good investment. Try your luck with the game. If not, you do have access to NBA League Pass. You're a basketball fan. Yeah, that was pretty good value for money. But they've taken that away. The pre-order bonuses are not exciting. You don't even get that physical copy anymore, so you don't even have that special cover, that unique cover for that premium edition. Yeah, the only thing that's really encouraging me to consider pre-ordering any edition but the standard edition, Derek, is the 7 days of early access. But apart from that, yeah, I don't feel very moved by any of the bonuses.
That's it for the responses on Twitter. Do we have any responses on our other social media platforms?
We did have a couple of people weigh in on Facebook as well. Matthew says, haven't bought this slaw since 23, and honestly, don't miss it. That's coming from someone who bought every live from 95 to 2004, and every 2K after that. Yeah, we've talked about 2K fatigue before, Derek, how a lot of people feel burned by the quality of the game, by the greed of the game. A lot of long-time gamers just don't feel that excitement anymore. Their loyalty has been tested and broken, and in many cases the games have not lived up to expectations. So yeah, I can definitely see where he's coming from.
Yeah, I think part of the problem here, though, is that at the end of the day, they're going to make their sales because there just is no competition in the space. There's still going to be a countless amount of people that are going to want to pick up this game because they want some 5-on-5 hoops. They want a new basketball game. Maybe they like the NBA, but they just want something to play. They want an escape. They want something to dive into. So whether the practices for the game are fair, which they're not, whether the games are as good as they used to be, which I don't believe they are, they're still going to make those sales, and a bulk of them are going to be on microtransactions.
And finally, Bruce says, I think I'm at a point where 2K no longer does it for me. I used to love firing it up and running franchise mode. They don't even try anymore, man. It's all about my player and my team. This will be the first 2K in its history that I won't be buying. And shout out to Bruce. I know Bruce. I mentioned the first community event that I attended earlier in the show. That's where I met Bruce, and he was a big live head back in the day, as I was. But his loyalty to the live brand was tested by his rougher releases. He ended up going to 2K, really enjoying 2K for many years, as he points out there. But once again, Derek, feeling burned by the brand, the quality of the games, or lack thereof, the focus on my career and my team over franchise mode. Yes, they've brought in my NBA eras. A lot of good stuff there. A lot of roughness there as well. We've talked about how it's lacking in many areas. So yeah, again, totally understand why he feels done with the series.
Sounds like you won't be watching the Ronnie 2K documentary, The Most Hated Man in Gaming.
Probably not. But yes, thank you to everybody who responded to Derek's community question. As always, it's great to have you as part of the conversation. And once again, Derek, not really surprised by the opinions that we've heard today.
Yeah, I mean, I wish people were more excited. I wish they could get more excited. But yeah, I just think there's a lot of 2K fatigue out there. I think that these prices for what you get are unfair, especially with the servers going down after 2 years. And I understand why people are upset. I understand why people are turning away from the series. I just wish there was more of an uproar around the some of the practices that NBA 2K is putting forth in these games. But unfortunately, like I stated, I don't think we're going to see a big revolt anytime soon. I feel like people don't feel like they're going to be able to make a difference. They don't want to waste their energy on it, etc. And I just find that unfortunate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, we will continue to call it out ourselves. I wish that I was more excited about the previous season. It's not like it used to be. It was a lot better when we had 2 games to look forward to compare. We'd have that alternative to possibly fall back on. Interested to see what both games were doing. The previous season began earlier, lasted longer. There was a lot more previews coming out throughout the weeks. That being said, we are definitely going to be staying on top of the news, posting the news on the NLSC. I'll be aggregating any details that come through, spotlighting the key information, trying to translate some of the PR, if you will, Derek, trying to get to the nitty-gritty of the information that they're putting out there. And of course, do some comparisons to previous developer blogs, because we've seen a lot of promises repeated and broken and repeatedly broken throughout the years. So that's something we're going to be paying attention to this year. But with that being said, we will be posting the news, aggregating all the details we can get, and discussing it here on the NLSC Podcast. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. Thank you for tuning in, and a reminder you can catch us every week on the NLSC, our YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Also, both we and the NLSC are on social media and would appreciate a follow. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Hey, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on the NLSC, D43, and on YouTube, D43.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center, and of course give a look to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for all things basketball gaming. So, thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone!